So if you're not sure how to put fonts into your Mac, it's quite simple. You'll be using the application Font Book, and that's in the Applications folder. If you're on a PC, you're probably not going to be able to install the fonts that I gave you for this project, but you can use similar looking fonts. The other thing is, on the project, there's a typeface there, the cursive one, and I'm not sure that we have that font, so you can use anything similar. Not too concerned that you have the exact typefaces, but you do want to get the similar look and feel. Just try not to use anything too crazy. So I'm just going to load my fonts in, and I have a specific folder. So if you do want a folder pertaining to your project, you can just create a new collection here, and then you can add into that. Otherwise, you can add into all fonts. I'm just going to do an add into this folder, and I'll track down the fonts that I'm adding in. They're already there, and open. And you may get this warning, the fonts that I've given you are safe, but you'll want to do select all fonts if you get a little warning, and install checked. And now you shouldn't have to quit InDesign to, sometimes if you can't find the typefaces you're looking for, you may have to restart your application, but for the most part, Font Book is pretty good with that. Okay, so we're looking at this content here, and we want to get the title. So again, we have the titles. We have a rule. That's not just a line, it's a rule that's applied to the type. And we have what's probably a text wrap here. So an invisible shape has been placed there to help with the text wrap. And then this content has been provided in a Word document. Also, all of this content has been provided in the Inside Components folder. And we'll work on that in the next tutorial. So I'm going to place in this content. So I'll go over to our document, go File, Place, or Command D, which I'm used to selecting, and gotta track that down. There we go. So we're actually working on the outside. There we go. And I'm just going to make, before I click with the thumbnail of the type, I'm just going to make a text frame, so I have a little more control over it. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to bring that in. Not too concerned at the moment where it's placed because I'm going to be moving it. So the first thing I want to do is get the colors sampled. So I'm going to highlight this. I'm going to go to my eyedropper, and we've used that for the panels, but if yours isn't preset, remember it's the eyedropper in the middle there. And I'm just going to select that color of the type. Now, a good thing to do when we have that color, I'm going to get my swatches panel open here so I can make sure it's the correct color. That looked a little light, so I'm going to try again, which means going back and reactivating that annoying eyedropper. In InDesign, it's quite annoying how it doesn't reset itself. And I'll try again to get that color. There we go. So once I get that color, it's a good idea, since you're going to be using it several times in this document, to put it into your swatches. So it came up here when I sampled it. We saw that we got the right one. And in our swatch palette, it came up. So I'm just going to drag that into my swatches, and that way I can keep it. Now I don't have to sample and hope I get the same sample. I already have it now. Now here, you're going to notice this typeface and the ones that you were given. Let's make sure that we know which ones we're using. So Arial, Georgia, and Minion. Okay, so it looks like we're working with, and I'm not even positive these are the ones in fact, because that's neither Arial nor Minion. So the computer that this was created on may have been a different one altogether, but that's okay. We're gonna do, up here we'll do Arial, which is quite a plain typeface, but that's okay. And for our mission, you can choose anything you like. I'm just going to try and find something that looks half decent here. That's not a great typeface for that. But I don't want to spend too long. Right, how's this? Okay, that's fine. Okay, so we have our vision and mission. Now this rule, you can see when you placed in your type from Word, the rule came in and it's reduced in length there. So we'll look at how to do that. You can select the copy that is over the rule. So the rule is probably applied to this copy. And we're going to open up in window, we're going to go to the type, and where are we here? Oh, actually, I almost thought we were in Illustrator for a moment. There we are. Paragraph from the type menu. And in the paragraph, we're going to go down to the rules, paragraph rules, and now we need to adjust this one. So first of all, we want to see, okay, rule above, it doesn't have one. So rule below, there it is. So now we're going to change first the color. So we've saved that swatch, so we can change the color of it. Good idea to turn preview on, because we're working on something here that we're able to see what it's doing. And we'll go to 7.75 point. We're going to make ours a little bigger, and we'll go to 2 point. And then we're going to bring this inset, got a lot of windows open here, but this is really inset too far, or offset actually. So, well, the offset is fine, in fact. It's the indent that we're going to pull back on the right. So we're going to bring that back. And with preview selected, you'll be able to see what it's doing. This one's quite long. Oh, I'm increasing it. There we go. Okay, there we go. All right, so we've got a 2 point rule. We selected the color from our swatches, made it a little shorter by increasing the indent, and we don't need a left indent, so we should be good there. And that came from the paragraph palette. Okay, let's see how we're doing there. Okay, it's not bad. I made mine a little thicker, but that's okay. And now we have this type. Now the first thing, I'm going to set the type. This one shows it in a sans serif, which that's okay for a little brochure like that, but I'm going to do it in a serif here. So I will choose Georgia regular. There's not really a light, so that's okay, but we'll make it 11 point to lighten it a bit. And then a good thing you can do with type in something like this is to go to the tint. So you can see I have the black there. I'm going to tint this back to about 90. And that just takes that harshness out of the contrast. And that way we can kind of set it into the page a little nicer. Okay, so we've got the frame. I'm going to bring the frame into about here. And again, I'm just looking at little reference points on this example. So it's about a ½ inch from the edge. But this is where we need to apply that text wrap. We don't want to, when you're wrapping something, you don't want to go in and do your own returns. You don't want to do a faked wrap, like keep doing that and that kind of thing. That's not a good idea. So first of all, just looking, this has been brought down a bit. So we'll bring this down from the top. And for some reason our rule has disappeared. So let's see what happened there. There we go. Now what happened is probably the rule has, since we have an indent, the rule's being forced. So I'm going to try and find that rule. I probably should have adjusted my frame before I adjusted the rule. So let's see if we can fix that. I'm going to select the rule, go back to my paragraph panel, go to paragraph rules, and I'm going to back off that right indent a bit. And we'll see what happens. And we'll go back and we'll adjust that. So what's happening is the rule is, we've told it needs to have that certain amount of indent, but when we reduce the size of the text frame, it doesn't have that amount to work with. So we gave it enough indent for a larger text frame, but then when we made the text frame smaller, it didn't have that much indent to work with. So it's my error in not doing the sizing of the frame prior to indenting the rule. Okay, so I brought it down a bit. Now this is where our wrap happens. So a text wrap, if you've never done one, keep in mind that you're applying the wrap to an object, and you have to pretend that that object doesn't allow type to touch it. So we're kind of putting a force field on something so that the type can't get to it. So I'm just going to make a circle here. And it doesn't have to be exact. You more just want to make sure that it's equal distance around the edge of the flower. And you don't want to have a color on it, so just leave it color free. And when you do that, on your laptops you may not see this, depends on how much screen you have showing on a laptop. If you're in Essentials Classic, you probably will see these icons up here, the text wrap icons. If you don't, that's okay. You can go to Window and Text Wrap, and you'll be doing that anyway if you need to adjust the spacing of the text wrap. But either way, whether you do it up at top or on the text wrap window, you're going to select Wraparound Shape. Now remember, you're applying that to the shape. So I'll hit Wraparound Shape, and that creates that wrap. Now what I was mentioning is you can increase or decrease the amount of space that it wraps to that object. This was a negative because it was pretty close already. So I'm just going to leave it there. And then keep in mind that if you want to see how that looks without all these frames and guides and everything, you can just press W and that'll give you an idea. So looking again, we're a little close to the edge of this page. You'll see when I press W, our bleed goes away and we're kind of close. So I'm going to pull this in a bit as well. And you can see there my rule got even smaller. So I'm going to have to go back again. I'm going to go back in, highlight that, go back to my paragraph, and I'm going to readjust that rule. So it would have been wise for me to not jump on the rule so soon before I sized my text frame, but that's okay. Okay. And W again to go back. I got a lot of windows open. It's making my frame my window kind of small here. I could be tidying this up, but I'm being lazy at the same time. Okay, so there's our type. Now I'm going to increase the leading on this very slightly. And I'm going to hold my Option key down and do one punch down with my down arrow. And one thing you'll notice, I did that, but I chose the top line. This time I'm going to do it not choosing the top line so that the space above the top line doesn't move. Now what we would want to do normally, and it may already be applied, is we would work with space after. So you can see up here, when I have this bottom line selected, the space after is there. That's good. That's a good sign. Instead of a return creating that space, it's actually coded in by using this space after. So I'm just going to reduce that slightly. There we go. Increased the leading. And now when you're doing this project, of course, we want to get it as exact as possible, but you don't have to have the exact line breaks and everything. What you really want to be aware of is that the type looks good. You know, that things are sitting well, and I could probably bring this in a little more to have a little tidier, but then I've got to go back and readjust my rule. So I'm just going to leave it at this for the sake of time. I'll check again with the W. So that's not too bad.